South Jamaica, baby, they made me to be the greatest. Serving the deed of my creators, fresh off of my high haters. It's the king again, Magdalene, chauffeured, bragging and boasting.
Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Dollars. Welcome back to the channel. It's another day, another dollar video, and I'm going to be reacting to the time Eminem got sued by his own mother. Now, I kind of remember this. This happened, like, I believe around the Eminem show time period when he dropped that album. And on that album, he actually had Cleaning Out My Closet. You know, it was like a diss record, but it was also a record where he was actually telling people his childhood and the reason why he hated his mom. I don't think he hated his mom, but you know, there's people that have rocky relationships with their moms. I'm sure some of y'all had rocky relationships with your mom, but y'all still love them. You know, and I feel like Eminem, even though he had that relationship with his mom that wasn't always good, he did love her because he made other songs talking about her where he apologized for dissing her. He had a song called Headlights. I think it's on the Marshall Mathers LP2 album, which is actually a song that makes me tear up every time I hear it, man. It's definitely, you know, a song that'll do that to you. If you guys haven't heard it, check it out. But yeah, I forgot what happened with this situation. I think she did sue him, but she didn't get no money out of it. No. If I'm not mistaken, she tried to sue him before he dropped Cleaning Out My Closet, because he even said it. Like, how did you try to, you selfish, how dare you try to take something from me you ain't helped me to get, some shit like that. He had a lyric like that in Cleaning Out My Closet. So without further ado, we're going to check this one out. I'm going to put a little disclaimer out there. This is a reaction video. I will provide commentary. I'm going to start doing that in the beginning of certain videos because, you know, people will strike you nowadays. So this is how I'm protecting myself. This is a reaction video for commentary purposes, okay? Let me just put that out there. So this is a new channel I just discovered. It looks like he got some interesting topics, so go show him some love, subscribe to him. Yeah, so without further ado, let's check it out.
Eminem dissed his mum on a song so hard that she was able to successfully sue him. When did it happen? How did it happen? And what amount of money did she eventually get from him? Well, the lawsuit makes a lot more sense if you understand that Marshall Mathers and Debbie Mathers have always had a fragile relationship. When I was growing up, I hated my mother, mainly because we were constantly moving. Eminem recalls his childhood as a tormented time in which he was forced to attend 15 different schools, while his mum chased boyfriends from city to city.
Damn, she was for the streets for real. She was for them 8 Mile streets for real, but damn, 15 different schools. I think the most schools I've been to in 1 year was like 3 different schools in 1 year. So I kind of understand what it's like to move. You make friends and then you move somewhere brand new and it's like starting over again. It's like, damn, you know, I can understand that.
Adding that his mother only loved him until he was 8 years old, and that by the time he was 15, she was demanding that he either help with bills or be thrown out of the house. With so much of Eminem's early music often discussing this harsh Detroit upbringing, it was inevitable that at some point he'd rap about he and his mother's poor relationship, doing so for the first time in 1999 after releasing the now incredibly popular song My Name Is, which included
236 million views for this is type low, but you gotta realize this is YouTube views. So imagine if YouTube would have been out when this song first came out, it'd be at 1 billion. Guaranteed 1 billion.
The lines, 99% of my life I was lied to. I just found out my mum does more dope than I do. I told her I'd grow up to be a famous rapper, make a record about doing drugs and name it after her. Although when Eminem's mum would listen to this song following its release, she'd publicly defend herself by stating that his upbringing was the exact opposite.
So she sued him for defamation, I'm assuming? Defamation of character?
To this. I'm looking at these and I'm going, what is this? I never worked a day in my life. We never had a house to live in. We lived on welfare. I mean, everything he was saying was like, I almost went into shock. I'm like, this is not true. Why are you doing this?
He probably capped a little bit in his raps. He probably exaggerated it. I'm not saying that he didn't have a rocky relationship, but, you know, as a rapper, you tend to stretch the imagination a little bit.
He was spoiled rotten. Anything he wanted, I made sure that I'd take my last dime and get it for him.
Neglectful.
No.
Pill popping.
No.
Welfare collecting.
No. He needs to quit, you know, making attacks on me.
I ain't gonna lie, man. Debbie's kind of, she look good. at that time. I ain't gonna lie.
You don't do this to your mom, and it is so hard.
In a different interview, when Eminem's mum was asked all that stuff about you doing drugs and
it's funny. Is it me or does Mom look a little bit like Drake's mom?
His rough childhood, is any of that true? She'd respond by stating, no, and that's what hurt me so much. I am a good Christian and prayer has kept me going.
Shout out
he was
my fellow
too spoiled.
Christians.
Anything he wanted, I would just buy it and I'd go without. I sheltered him too much and I think there's a little resentment from that. And to be fair to Debbie Mathers, there is evidence suggesting that Eminem didn't actually have a rough upbringing. Eminem's younger half-brother...
You know what's funny? That reminds me of when Biggie dropped Juicy, talking about eating sardines for dinner. Bro, ain't no way you was as big as you was and you didn't have nothing to eat for dinner, bro. Especially talking about you only had sardines. Get out of here, Biggie.
Todd Nelson stated in an interview that Marshall was always very resentful over not having a father figure in his life. Growing up, he felt like he missed out on a lot. But all this stuff about him being abused as a child...
I ain't gonna lie to y'all. When I was listening to Eminem, when I was like 16, 15, the first Eminem album I heard was Marshall Mathers. Like, the first album that I own and listened to was that album. And a lot of the lyrics on that album, he talks about, you know, his father not being there. I think it's actually on the first song. He says something about... My whole life, I thought my father was crazy, but it was really my mom type shit. And I kind of like felt that way too, but then I also had the resentment of my dad not being around. I think a lot of the anger I had as a teenager was not having my father in my life. I just didn't understand why. You know, I would see kids playing with their dads and playing catch and shit. I'm like, you know, it bothered me. It really did.
Child is so far from the truth.
But then it made me who I am too.
Debbie did everything she could for him when he was growing up. She bought him his first car, a Lincoln Continental, and ran around after him so he didn't have to take responsibility for anything. She's done the same thing with her youngest Nathan, and he's growing up to be an equally spoiled brat, with his sentiment also being shared by
whatever happened to Nathan.
Debbie was so protective of this boy, she never allowed him until he got in his teens to have a lot of friends.
Whether or not Eminem really had a traumatic youth was yet to be determined. However, on the 20th of September 1999, at a time during which Debbie Mathers was conveniently close to bankruptcy, she'd pick the first lawyer she found in the Yellow Pages named Fred Gibson and file a $10 million defamation lawsuit against Marshall Mathers, stating that his comments had caused...
I mean, damn, Ma. $10 million? I think that's a little bit too much right there. Like, I don't even think he even had that much money at that time. 1999, and you want to sue him for $10 million? Now... it's a different story. Eminem is freaking filthy rich, but damn.
Various forms of emotional distress, including diminished self-esteem, humiliation, sleepless nights, harm to her credit rating, and even the loss of her mobile home.
When you can't go to the mob for being spit on and being called, you know, you disgusting pig, it's sad because people are passing judgment by listening to Marshall's songs.
However, the filing of this lawsuit only led Eminem's mum to receive even more backlash.
Hold up.
Disgusting pig, it's sad because people are passing judgment by listening to Marshall's songs.
However, the filing of this lawsuit only led Eminem's mum...
damn. She was a ting back then. I ain't gonna hold you,
to receive
Debbie.
even more backlash. Going back to the interview with Eminem's half-brother, he'd state that after filing the lawsuit, Eminem's mum became the most hated woman in Detroit. Debbie can't go out anywhere in Detroit without being recognized, and normally it ends up with her being abused or attacked. She's had everything from eggs thrown at her to cigarette butts flicked at her. She got so fed up with people cursing or staring at her that she'll only do her shopping in the middle of the night. Damn. It's a terrible way to live, and nobody...
I don't think he meant for it to go this far. You know, at that time, even you and me, as a kid, we do things, we don't think about the consequences. When I'm pretty sure there's some things that we've done in the past that we look back at and it's like, damn, why did I do that? I wish I could have did that differently. I wish I would have never said that. I wish I would have, you know, there's a lot of things like that, moments, me speaking for myself that, you know, I wasn't thinking, man. And I'm not a bad person because I did those things, because I actually feel bad for it now. I wish I could take those things back. So I don't think he wanted his mom to go through that. I really don't. Even, like I said, in the newer songs he's done, he talks about apologizing and shit like that.
he deserves what she's been through. When Marshall himself learned of the lawsuit, he unsurprisingly called his mother in a fit of rage. However, in the public eye, Eminem was able to remain cool, calm, and collected, stating that he simply expected the lawsuit. My mum is a lawsuit queen. All her life she has sued people. That's how she makes money. When I was 5, she had a job on the cash register at a store that sold chips and soda. Other than that, I don't remember her working a day in her life. While Eminem's lawyer would come forward stating that the lawsuit will only be dealt with through legal channels, Eminem seemed to have a different idea as he began to use the situation as fuel for new lyrics.
The lawsuit didn't stop him when he got hit with the lawsuit. It didn't stop him. He got worse.
On the 23rd of May 2000, whilst Eminem was smack bang in the middle of the lawsuit, he'd released the Marshall Mathers LP on which he'd feature lines such as, "My mum's suing for 10 million. She must want $1 for every pill I've been stealing. Where you think I picked up the habit? All I had to do was go in her room and lift up her mattress," doubling down on the claims that had started the lawsuit. However, this is the point at which the story takes a bizarre, almost hilarious twist.
All right, so I have a little theory, right? Let's say it's true that his mom wasn't as bad as he claimed. Was this a whole marketing scheme from his label? Like, I wouldn't put it past his label. You know, they had a young goat in Eminem at the time, and they were thinking about, okay, how are we going to market him? We got to go with the crazy rebel, anti-parent type of messaging, you know? Like, I think maybe that played a little role in it. I'm not saying that he didn't have legitimate issues with his mom, but yeah, I feel like the label played a role in that too. You know, they exaggerated a few or more than a few things.
As a result of Eminem continuing to rap about his mother in an unfavorable way, she'd respond by doing something that only a few have been dumb enough to attempt. Demi Mathers dropped a diss track on Eminem.
That. She dropped a diss track.
CD, it was one of the ways for me to get my feelings out there to my son and the public.
The song titled Dear Marshall was released on a 2-track EP called Setting the Record Straight.
This is called Set the Record Straight.
Should I react to that, y'all? Let me know.
And Eminem's mom, and it should be available in stores.
And featured lyrics such as, "We have a problem, Marshall. The past 2 years something really went wrong. I was so excited about your success, yet so let down by your betrayal. Will the real Marshall Mathers please stand up and take responsibility for his actions?"
It includes the telltale line, "Marshall, we have a problem." And to set the record straight on that lawsuit, Debbie hasn't dropped the suit, but as we said, she is working on a settlement.
With Eminem now having a fair bit of pressure on him from the media, Debbie Mathers reduced the lawsuit amount from 10 million to 2 million with the goal of reaching a settlement. However, perhaps as a partial result
So if they settled, I would say she probably got like 1.5
of his mother's diss track, Eminem rejected the $2 million settlement request, instead stating that he'd rather pay his attorneys $100,000 just to make sure that she doesn't get a dime.
Damn.
Although, while Eminem wasn't ready to give up $2 million that easily, Debbie seemed to have theorized another method to earn this money, as shortly after having her $2 million settlement rejected, she'd announced that she was writing a tell-all book about her and Marshall's upbringing titled My Son Marshall, My Son Eminem. After seeing her book announcement as another cash grab based on his fame, Eminem would escalate the conflict further by stating, "If I could go back in time, I'd probably go back to the day I was born and kill my mother as soon as she had me," also releasing another brutal song titled Cleaning Out My Closet, in which Eminem can be seen digging a grave for his mother in the music video, whilst rapping lyrics such as, "Look at me now, I bet you're probably sick of me now. Ain't you mama, I'ma make you look so ridiculous now." However, while this was the approach taken by Eminem publicly, his mother explained that behind the scenes, he was on the phone begging her to end the conflict, having stated, "All I want for my birthday, for Father's Day, for Christmas, for all the other holidays, is for you to drop the lawsuit," and it seemed like after this phone call, Debbie was potentially going to drop the case. She'd publicly admit that, "I didn't mean to sue my son for defamation. I just wanted to stop my home being repossessed and clear up the financial problems that had been caused."
My whole thing is, I feel like if that was the real reason why she was trying to sue him, he would have took care of her anyway. Maybe he would have went, you know, he was probably trying to make a point and he was probably shitting on her. But I don't think he was going to let his mom be homeless, bro. Let's be real. You know, I don't think that would have been the case.
Yet, under the advice of her lawyer, who stated that the suit would be a good way to give Marshall a wake-up call, Debbie continued the case until it would finally come to settle on the 8th of August 2001. 2 full years had passed since Debbie initially launched the lawsuit against her son, and given how much pain had been experienced during this period, Debbie was likely expecting a pretty impressive payout, although this isn't what would happen. Eminem was ordered to pay his mother a measly $25,000, which becomes even funnier when you come—
Wow. 25,000, which 23.354, 25 cents went to her lawyer? That's crazy.
And to discover that in the process, Debbie Mathers was charged $23,354 in legal fees, meaning that when all was said and done, Eminem's mum kept only $1,646.
That's foul.
Debbie Mathers' lawyer stated that she was the most high-maintenance client I've had in my legal career, and that the $25,000 settlement was a far cry to the time I dedicated.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you go with the first lawyer that you see in the yellow pages.
To her personally and to the legal action. Following the suit, Eminem and his mother wouldn't speak to each other for years.
We don't really speak. When was the last time you talked? It's probably been a couple of years, probably about 3, maybe 4 years, something like that.
In an interview from 2010, Marshall stated that he didn't even know where his mum was living and that it'd be very hard to repair that relationship. However, in 2014, Eminem released the song Headlights as an apology to Debbie, explaining that he was sorry for all the things he had said about her in the past.
All right, well, he kind of ended the video abruptly. I felt like he could have said a couple more things, you know, to close it out. But yeah, that Headlight song, like I said, man, if y'all listen to it, it's a very emotional song. It'll make you probably tear up. Yeah, man, Eminem's the GOAT, bro. One of my favorite rappers of all time. Going back to the Marshall Mathers LP being the first album I heard from him, I remember I would just, when it was time for me to go to bed, take my Walkman, put that CD in, close my eyes. It's like watching a freaking motion picture. I haven't done that in so long. Well, there hasn't been music like that where I could actually just close my eyes and be excited again. I actually thought she was going to win some money. I thought she won more money than that. That's wild. You did all that just for $1,000 and it took you 2 years, bro. That's crazy. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comments down below. If you find these videos interesting, I will do more from this channel. Shout out to this channel, man. Looks like he got a lot of interesting topics I would like to react to. So if you guys want to see those reactions, just hit the like button and subscribe. It's your boy Dollars. I'ma holla. Mari.
For my time goes by, they gon' raise a nigga jersey in the sky. Treat a nigga right, big dreaming on my life. Shorty wanna get some air, I go and get her when I fly. Taking off on these niggas I retire. The minute I catch fire, I smoked them all before, just revisiting the high.